Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Elizabeth Wood. My guest is Susan Mills today, and she's been doing work with businesses and strategy and transition for many decades now. And her work has been very influential to me. And so over the year that I've known her, I've been able to glean from her mind and her ability to strategize in a very grounded, realistic way. It's been incredibly helpful to me, someone who's not very grounded. And then using her mindset shifts, using her style of thinking, and some of the techniques that we're going to share with you today, we've been able to, for myself especially, and many people she's helped, ground our vision into reality. And this is a very first part of a series that we're going to be doing of these fireside chats, these talks where we're going to start picking Susan's brain about how to really ground your vision into real life reality, how to make your business go from one thing to an entirely new thing, or to start something brand new that you haven't fully grounded yet. So most of you have businesses that are in transition. All of us really, because if you're looking at the global situation at the moment, everything's changing. We're in a massive shift. So business in general is going to be changing really in major ways, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We're also looking at a totally new paradigm of culture, a paradigm of culture that's based in empowerment, and we get to be the ones who choose that. We don't have to fall for any more dependency culture anymore. We can go and we can move into a foundation of, I want to be empowered to do this work, and I want to empower the people I work with and the networks and the communities that I'm part of. And all of that turns into a beautiful relationship with money, which Susan has a very different idea around money than most of us have been taught. And we're going to get into that through our chats that I'm going to share with you with Susan. We're going to get very clear on how to take your vision into a grounded reality. So thank you so much, Susan. I so appreciate your wisdom and that you're willing to be part of this with all these beautiful souls. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and you're so kind and so generous to me. It's a true honor and privilege to work with you and to work with your community. It's a moment in time, you're right, that this is a paradigm shift, to use a somewhat hackneyed phrase by now. But the world, we're not going back to where the world used to be. And we as individuals and as part of the communities we live in, we have to show up and act in a different way. And the reality for people to make money and support their families and create the both the necessities and the luxuries of life is still present with us, but it's going to happen in a new way. And we're seeing that unfold in very many casual ways now. What the work that you and I are talking about is a little bit more of a structured approach that people can be proactive in doing. So thank you for having me and for introducing me to your community.
Awesome. I'm very glad, and they are going to eat this up because proactive is everybody's middle name. Everyone here has willingness, and spiritually, willingness is the driving force. It's the gas that gets the momentum going. And so they are all willing to be proactive, and we're going to really help people take that to another level. So I have some questions to start with, and my friends, this will be a bit of an interview style. So it's kind of like New Earth conversation style. You've all probably heard me do those kinds of conversations before. And so first, I want to look at the changes that are happening right now, let's really nail down exactly how it's going to affect businesses from here. Right now, most of the planet is in lockdown still. There's talk about being in lockdown for incredibly long periods of time. There's talk about trying to get the economy back up. There's many millions of people without jobs all over the world at this point. Everyone is in transition. Even if you have a well-established business like I do, it's still changing massively. So how can people take what's happening globally, instead of feeling panicked and scared about all of these major changes, about not feeling like they know what the future is going to look like, how can they take this perspective and ground it in a personal, realistic way to help them stay motivated for the next step, which is basically transforming their business into something that helps their community? What's a good mindset for people to use, Susan?
Well, the starting point, which is something that I know you believe in, that you teach, uh, is to take the most positive, optimistic, appreciative perspective that you're able to do on this. If I choose to not say that we're in lockdown, which has a little bit like prison. I choose to call it work from home.
Yeah.
WFH. And work from home says, oh, I'm in a place where I belong. I'm in my home, whatever that looks like to me. And I'm working from here out to the world. So just that little simple thing changes the energy of it. If I'm in lockdown, somebody else has oppressed me. Somebody else has told me what I can do and what I can't do. If I'm working from home, I'm a king in my castle. I can do whatever I like. I can work in my pajamas. So attitude is everything. I coach. I've been starting tech companies, and then for the last 30 years coaching tech companies through all kinds of blossoming economies and busts, through the dot-com bust, through the 2008 economic recession. We've never seen anything like the coronavirus that has literally impacted every person on the globe all at the same time. And if that is a reset, a global reset, which we are all sure that it is, by definition, the world, we're not going back.
Yeah.
Education's going to be different. Healthcare is going to be different. The idea of philanthropy is going to be different. Everything is going to have to be reinvented. And the time to start that is right now. And I'll just make one more point and then open to questions. We can be, I can be, you can be, and you and I together within our community can be anything that we make it up to be. Nobody, there's some basic rules and regulations, that being respectful and following, established principles. But beyond that, nobody can tell us that we can't do anything. So that's the starting point, and that's where vision is, of, okay, here I am. What's the opportunity? What do I have? Well, I have a comfortable chair. I have a working computer. I have some friends I can talk to. Bingo. Now we've got to start. So we start from where we are. We start with an appreciative, positive attitude. And we, as much as possible, try to sculpt this work from home experience, however you define it, through some kind of lens or some kind of perspective. A common word for that is vision. I back away from vision a little bit because it's so big.
Yeah.
So I talk about vision, and then I talk about, which is a huge picture, and a mission is me in particular playing within this vision. So I think that's about enough of philosophy right now. What do you think?
Sure. So if I may mirror it back to you, we have an opportunity to work from home at this point. So if we take this and we shift this oppressive feeling of lockdown and we say, I'm not going to point all my energetics or my mindset through this lens of lockdown because that's oppressive. Instead, I'm going to see the opportunity in this that I can work from my home space. So then what that would look like starting manifesting is that first, you can't build your business from the future. You can only build it from the now. You can't build it from the future. You can't do things.
But you can dream about the future.
Yeah, you can totally dream about the future, and we ought to, because that's part of using your imagination to then feel and then ground and act in the moment to keep bringing that future forth. But you can't function from the future. So I'll give my husband as an example. He was getting really frustrated with how many people were seeing his music or not, or listening to it. And he said, it should be more. And I said, that's you trying to function from the future. It will be more. But instead, have that idea of what you want it to look like. And then from the now, say, everything I can do right now to create this next step of what I want. There's no should be at this point because we're in a new situation. So for some of us who've been working from home for a long time, the tips I would like to give to help make that really easy for you is to play around with your computer, get used to being on a camera, get used to speaking with the microphone, get used to playing with tech because it's going to be one of the biggest ways you're going to connect with people. And get used to Zoom, play with it, really start to experiment. Get some friends on there who want to experiment with you and get used to creating a space. Watch a Zoom tutorial about how to look good on a Zoom camera. Make sure you're connecting as much as you can without overwhelming yourself on the tech a little every day. Get more used to it because that's the number one way you're going to connect to people. Make sure your space, your workspace feels comfortable. Make sure it's nice and organized and clean. And piles of to-do lists will shake you up. It'll really mess you up. It'll make it overwhelming and then you'll freeze. What we don't want is to cultivate stress in your workspace. Now you have this brand new office. It ought to be a sanctuary, a temple of creation instead of a place that causes stress. Stress makes you sick. It makes it easier for things like viruses to take hold. It keeps you from functioning. Furthermore, I just want to point out, stress makes you less intelligent. It causes the blood of your frontal lobe to go to the back of your brain where all of your motor functions are. Literally, it makes it harder for you to function. If you go in to try to do any building of your business at all in a stress mode, you're not going to make good choices. You're not going to make choices that are part of your soul and that make you joyful and happy. Now, of course, building a business is going to require lots of things like math and spreadsheet and taxes, yes. But again, all of those things can be either delegated or turned into smaller little bits so it's not so stressful. I don't do my taxes all at once. That's impossible. So just turning it into baby steps each moment. What can I do right now? That's the most important question I ask myself every day. What in this very moment can I do right now to keep cultivating the future I envision for myself and my family and my network? Because it's not always about us, of course. So that kind of leads us a little bit into this really interesting triangulation that you pointed out to me earlier, Susan. Could you speak about that uh, the triangulation, it's not just you alone trying to connect to people out in the world who will pay you for your services. It's not. It's much more rich than that. Can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Absolutely. And what you're talking about is triple purpose. But could I back up a little bit
Yes.
on some of the, because part of starting on a new adventure, which a business is, um, one of the things when I have my initial session with clients, we sweep everything clean. In some of the comments that you just made about getting to know technology and cleaning your office, those are fabulous suggestions if you are a technology-based company.
Right.
There are other opportunities. I'm working with initiatives all over the world for people who their only link, and maybe it's even a shared link to technology, is occasional use of a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I wouldn't put any preconditions about office space, technology, funding on the initial exercise to dream. If you can close your eyes, and I do this in a kind of a rapid fire one word exercise with clients, just without thinking about it, tell me what the ideal world looks like. I mean, it is perfect. It has no obstacles. It has all the aspects of paradise. And I've done this dozens and dozens of times, and everybody's picture of that paradise is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's in the mountains, sometimes it's by the sea, sometimes it's alone, sometimes it's collective. So the starting point is to figure out what that dream looks like to you. And then you go, oh, well, that's unrealistic. That's what, yeah. You're not responsible for the whole dream. You're just responsible to say, that's where I'm going. I want to live in that world, not the other world. And once you can figure out that that's, in a sense, the destination, even as fuzzy as it is, you can say, and my role in it, I'm a carpenter. I shoe horses. I plant grain. I do online video conferencing. Then you're putting yourself in a larger context of being a positive contributor to that ideal picture of the future, that ideal picture of paradise. Okay, in that picture of paradise, oh, I'm over there. I'm in the left-hand corner, and maybe I have a place by the side of the road and people pass by, or maybe I'm hidden in a back corner and nobody can see me. Whatever it is, there is a place within that puzzle of paradise, or that opportunity of paradise, that is your personal comfort zone, your home, you're working from home. And now you've got two parameters, the big picture and the personal picture, that can help you get started. The third thing is, okay, what am I doing in that little place of paradise that I'm finding? I'm reading, I'm singing. And this is, Elizabeth, when I started working with you, this is where you started saying things that didn't look a whole lot like online conferences.
Right.
You liked them, you enjoyed them, you were good at them, but you kept coming up with words like databases and empowering people and making, helping your husband bring his music to the world, helping other people bring other things to the world. And I said, she's not telling me that she's Oprah. She's telling me that she's behind the scenes to other people, maybe herself too, partly Oprah. But at the core, Elizabeth was about empowering others and creating a pathway for their dreams to come into the world. Am I right on that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that was where I think you said, ah, I really always thought I was this coach. I said, it's not that you're not a coach. It's just that you're not telling me that that's the main thing that you are.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So now we've got some parameters. We've got this ideal world with Elizabeth in it, with her core strength being this publisher. And all of the, and then the next thing is, what are the inventory of things that this person, Elizabeth or whoever else, has at their fingertips? What do I know how to do? What's my energy level? Do I get tired in the morning or sleepy at night? Or is the weather allowing me to go outside? Do I live in a place that is crowded? Do I live in a place that's solitary? Whatever it is, there are conditions around you that we won't add any judgment. We don't know if they're good or bad or need to be changed. We just know that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the inventory of the present. And for people today who are in this work from home mode, okay, I'm at home. Maybe I don't have enough privacy. Maybe I would like to create a private space or a time of day that is private, or a routine, whatever it is. You look at where you are at this moment with what you have, and you see every single part of it. And this is really hard. You see every single part of it as your gift. You've got a sick child. You've run out of money and can't pay the rent. You've got this restriction on you that you're chafing against. And this is the really, really, really hard point. If you can approach that with optimism and creativity rather than fear, all of a sudden, I could ask my neighbor to babysit for a minute while I run to the store. All of a sudden, something will come up. Now, maybe all that comes up is I can go online and look for help. Maybe there is something proactive that somebody else needs that you can do, in addition to the fact that proactively you have a need that somebody else has to help you fulfill. Bingo. Now we've got an exchange.
Yep.
Now we've got the basis of, to use a little bit of a crass word, commerce.
Yeah, economy. There's the basis.
We've got transactions. Yeah. And that's what life on Earth is really all about. It's life in nature. It's exchanges. What's good for me can be not so good for you. What's bad for me can be really terrific for you. The way we breathe, the way we, all the systems of nature that exchange complementary value to each other. All of that is the pattern for a business. And all of it begins, and you can kind of start in either way, this big picture of this ideal paradise, this world. If the world ran the way I want it to be, this is what it would operate. Or you could begin with, this is who I am, what I have, what I want to do. And let's see how I can position that in the dream world that it would flourish within. So those are my two first stops, and neither of those answered your question about the triple economy.
Oh, no, I think it's very important because it gives people a foundation to not skip over the dream part.
They can't.
No, you can't. You can't skip over the dream part. And what I had said about creating a physical situation for yourself Well, that's only going to work really well for you if it's going to work and be guided by your dream. None of it can work for you unless it's part of that dream. And reassessing that dream often, I think, is really important too. Would you say that's true, that people ought to reassess their dream and their position in that dream regularly?
No. I think that that dream and that position in that dream comes from a yearning inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we were born with, knowing that we wanted to have or do. It's what oftentimes people call their purpose. I think that at the heart of us, I think it can shift. I think that, but I think it shows up in children. I think it matures through the life cycle of a human being. But fundamentally, um, it can remain constant throughout life. Or at certain points, we can say, I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be something completely different. And
Yeah,
we can change it and redirect it. But it's not something that happens frequently. It's
gotcha.
something that happens at pivot points.
Mm-hmm.
You will see that people are born with innate gifts of music. They like to study. They're scholarly. They require being outside. They become naturalists or ecologists of very kind, or birders, or there is something within the nature of that spirit, that human being, that longs for something. And most of the time, those urgings are not encouraged.
Right.
They're no, you should do it this because this is the safer way. What we're seeing today with the coronavirus pandemic is all those rules and regulations, they're gone. The safest way for you to be fulfilled and for you to be happy is to listen and part of you that knows something about you. And then let's build on that. And that's what you and I in our work together tapped into.
Yes.
Not that all those other skills and abilities and knowledge that you've acquired over the years don't matter. They matter deeply. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. They have to be built into the picture so that the primary vision and mission is in a sense both well understood and not known at all. You have a knowingness of whether it's right, you're doing the right thing. And then you get into the more tactical things. Well, I think I'll do this, I think I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Good. So let me mirror back to you what you've said, because that really helped me. Because I always imagine that I have to reassess my dream and compare it to reality, and that's not at all going to help. And so,
well, you can check in,
sure,
but that's not changing. That's not redefining.
right. And so the dream, the vision that we have is based in our purpose, and that isn't really going to change. So, for example, if we were to look at my situation as a good example, early on, I did come through with very specific gifts, none of which were cultivated, and early on, people get shut down real quick when adults ask little children, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Suddenly, they've just lost their entire childhood in one question. And instead, we ought to ask ourselves in this dream, what is it that I love about the ideal world I want to be in? What do I love? And what makes me feel all that love in myself when I'm doing it in this world? So for me, realizing that over time, it was, oh, I love people. I love human beings. I love being able to serve them with my interesting, unusual talents. I like being able to empower people to heal, to be happier, to be more powerful in the world, to be more effective. And so empowerment and insight and my ability to connect with human beings and have rapport with them, those would be those very core foundational pieces of who I am that tie into my greater dream every single day. And that has never changed.
Mhm.
Has never changed. So very awesome to not feel like you have to twist your dream to make it fit anything else other than your perfect paradise that you're working towards, which in our community we call that new earth. And we're creating it all the time. It's not somewhere we're going that's just going to be there. We got to make it. We have to create it. So we're all trying to envision that together, but each of your visions of what that paradise is very core to who you are, and that's not necessarily going to change. Does that fit more?
Right. One of the things that might happen in your community is that people might get together for just a vision exploration hour, 2 or 3 or 4 people, not 20 people.
Yeah.
And I envision this, I envision that, I envision the other. By having 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 voices in the conversation, they're going to spark off each other. They're going to remind each other. They're going to trigger each other in positive ways. And then if after that kind of group fun session, each one of them went back and paid a picture. I mean, it's almost like a book club. They could go back and paint a picture of how each one of them envisioned the perfect world, then meet again and to see what's the same that they all share and what's different, which may be particular to one particular person. And that's the core. I've worked in high technology at global systems for 30, 40 years. And that is the same process whether you are a brand leader on the global scale or you're a sole proprietor of a personal service business. If you don't start with this sense of understanding, one of the things that made Steve Jobs so incredible, he had a dream about what was perfect. And he drove people like a madman to fulfill his dream.
Yes.
And by the way, other people fit into that dream, but certainly in the early days, it more or less was his dream.
Yeah.
And that's the case with any entrepreneur. If you have this circle and you find a group of like-minded people, then you've got an energy that you can share among yourselves to see if there's a collective dream and your part within that dream. What might also happen is that, I don't fit with any of these people at all. All of the stuff they want to do, that's not at all what I want to do. Okay, so go find another group of people. But your dream will always be bounded in the collective.
Yeah.
Your mission will be personal, but your dream, your vision, your understanding of how the world works is also always going to be diverse, multidimensional, have the greatest complexity of any large system in order for that dream to be healthy.
Yeah.
So I think that people can get started on this kind of teeter-totter of a dream vision kind of experience that they create by themselves, with their family, with their friends, and then at the other end of that same exercise, where do I fit in that?
Yes. Very good. And that leads us nicely into your triple purpose concept. Yeah. Would
Right.
you
Now,
elaborate on that now?
now I will answer your question.
Very
I
good.
really wasn't holding out on you, but I felt it
No,
needed some
it's
treatment.
okay. I think this is
The
key. People are going to
the
really
the
understand it at this point.
businesses before 60, 90 days ago had what they felt was a lot of power. They had friends in high places. They had lines of credit. They had relationships with unique suppliers that helped them be very different than everybody else that was in the world. In other words, it was us and them. It's going to be interesting to see how that framework changes as we move forward. I don't think that we will have the same level. Sorry, my computer fell off. I don't think that we will have the same level of rules and regulations around what is practical, what works, all this kind of stuff. I think our ability to evaluate success will happen through a different lens. In the future, I believe we're looking at this global pandemic is on the brink of generating major global issues, not only disease but also food supplies, so on and so forth. When you start looking at what somebody else needs, you're now paying attention to the environment around you. That's the community within which you live. When I was talking about vision, you can bring that vision down to the vision for my community. It could even be the vision for my family. But there's more people than you in that construct.
Yeah.
Let's take it at the family level. Maybe somebody needs care, special care. Maybe somebody else has too much energy to create the quiet context. How are we going to tap that energy? Whatever somebody has, that's what we have. How are we going to channel it? So in this triple business model that I was talking about, the three parts of it are, what does the community need? What do I need? I need this amount of money. I need a house. I need food. I need peace and quiet for 2 hours a day, whatever it is. And then the third part, and this is the business part of it, within that bigger community, what do people have that they can exchange with me? So the three parts of this are me, myself, me and the community that I live in, me in relationship to those individual people that I exchange with. We would call them buyers. So we've got the collective social context, the market context, which is the buyer, and the personal context, which is the entrepreneur. When you get the entrepreneur working in harmony, providing something that is needed by buyers, and also in that same process creates impact for the larger community, bingo, you win. So maybe there can be a way to get paid for cleaning out waterways or recycling trash or planting trees. I don't know what it is. Somewhere in your community is somebody that needs something. Maybe there is a business for people doing delivery services, making sandwiches. I don't know what it is. But I guarantee you there is not only what the traditional mindset of what can I do that you will buy and I'll get rich from. What I'm saying here is that that's no longer sufficient. What can I do that you can buy that we can both be enriched by? And this is a requirement that by the fact of this transaction between you and me, we are also solving a societal problem. In other words, maybe that problem is shelter, homelessness. Maybe we give a part-time job to somebody who's been homeless to pick up recycling that we can then remanufacture into something we sell.
Yeah.
It's these 3 points: solve a social problem, solve a personal interest, solve a buyer need.
Beautiful.
And that's the new paradigm.
Yeah. So let's frame that, because most of the people who are on our call and who will listen to this are healers. And so we know, of course, human beings of all types, that's a need that is going to be global for every human. Every single human needs healing. We need emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual healing. And so we know then as healers that, and the question I've always left out, Susan, has always been, what do I need to be able to do the work my clients need, and that will and also enrich our community? And my business happens to be a global scale business, because many of you on the call are from all over the world. So whatever layer of community you want to work from, even if the first step is simply your neighborhood, that's a good step. But I have not asked myself enough, what do I need? And the answer for myself in that same triangulation process is that I need healing too. And so what that has looked like, because I want to use this as an example, is that I have done a lot of trades. I do a lot of bartering with other healers, because they need healing, I need healing. They become then an important part of helping the whole community be able to function, be able to move forward into the dream where everyone is healing and being healed and is working in healing themselves and others. A healed world, a world that's focused on healing is my ideal world. It's empowerment and healing. And so for those of you who are in the healing realm, and if you're even moving from, say, an office space where you did massage therapy and all of those things to working from home, these things are it's still possible to do that. And it's still really important. But asking yourself, what do I need to be able to do this, is going to be key. And that's something I think we often totally don't ask ourselves, as healers especially. Do you have any advice for?
Yeah, I do, and I'll use you as the case study.
Good.
What you need personally, as you just described, is this sense of healing and being connected to people.
Yeah.
That is a way of being that expresses your spirit, your soul. That's not your business. That's how you appear in the world. Your business is in all these various realms of coaching, of publishing, of advice. You have a variety of things that you do as a business. What you want to be sure to align is that as you go through those things you do for financial support, they don't violate some core need at the heart of you.
Mm.
And a lot of people, I'm thinking of some dear clients I have right now who started a really innovative hair salon in Oakland, and they love the creativity of it. Through this pandemic, they've just, as of yesterday, I helped coach them through shutting it down and closing it. And at the end of it, we had a celebration. And we celebrated the rest that they will get from not having to carry the stress of moving forward through these challenging times. In other words, we took what began as something quite sad, and we saw the gift in it. So what I coached them through was not that they were going to start a salon, not that they were going to, how can I say this? They wanted to make sure that every practice within their salon aligned with their sense of self and community and caring for themselves and caring for others and caring for those around them, community collaboration. However, their core business was doing hair. It wasn't healing. And that's oftentimes, like you hear this with people who have a gift for music or who have a profound interest in gardening. Oftentimes they have to take a tangential approach to fulfilling that inner need. Maybe the person that's in gardening really goes into the food services world, where he can use his interest in organics and preparations to feed people. Maybe the person that has been doing, and this is the case with my salon friends, they've been in the practice for the last 8-9 years of doing hands-on care for people around health and beauty. That world is over, gone, done. Legal papers being filed today. But they know a lot. So they're thinking about health and beauty from the experience they've gained with business operations. So they're moving themselves into new dimensions of health and beauty, delivering through a different way.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that personal need to give and receive will never change, but it may not be the wraparound for the financial world that somebody lives in. Somebody can be a healer by being a teacher in a classroom. Somebody can be a healer by stocking goods in the grocery store.
Or writing ebooks.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The point being is that we often get confused by, oh, I long to be a musician, or I long to be a gardener. Keep that longing, keep that coreness, but figure out how it can be delivered so that it has value, commercial value, exchange value, whether it's through barter or money or some other type of reciprocity. Unless what you're offering also has a recognized value to the other person, let's call that other person a buyer, then it's not a business, it's a hobby. A lot of businesses are started because they are gratifying for the business owner.
Right.
They're called vanity businesses. That's fine. But if the market doesn't adopt them and want them and pay for them in some reciprocal way, it's not a business. It's a hobby.
So then the next step really is to find out, what do the buyers need from you and how?
Not only the buyers, because that's the traditional paradigm,
but the community.
Also the community.
Okay, very good.
So let's say we have to, I have lived 50 years in Berkeley. It's my home. We've got a terrible homeless problem. How can Berkeley clean up the homeless problem in ways that, how can I, this is theoretical now because I have my own line of business, but how can I as an individual contribute, for instance, to the homeless problem through also manufacturing or performing or cleaning up or doing something that somebody else will pay for. So by having the community perspective always at hand when you're thinking about the task that you want to do, it will change your thinking. I'll give you an example in Tampa, which is where I am right now for the next little bit of time. I'm working with some people that are taking high school students right now in this current situation of work from home into a community service project that is also a skills-based learning process that they can put on their resume. So now part of the assignment for the kids is to pick a project that needs to get done in Tampa, but they have to define their role in that project in terms of a resume, adding to their resume. So now the student gets enriched with some credit.
Yeah.
Or some real life experience. The community gets a problem solved. And in this case, there's no money exchange, but there's a value exchanged.
Yeah.
And so, and we're requiring them to do this in 8 to 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. We're calling them turnaround teams. And what we're showing is that these kids, what we hope to show is that these kids on these turnaround teams become a cohesive working unit. They learn how to solve that community problem by each of them bringing their own individual strengths and interests to their part of the problem. That's in the situation of a social context. It's the same in a business context. Same model.
I think it's brilliant, and including the community and what the community needs, whatever level of community that might be, and thinking about, and I teach layers of culture. I talk about layers of culture that starts with the individual. And so in this case, we've covered that base. And then it's always about relationships. So from there, all the different layers of relationship you have, it goes all the way up to the global level. And of course, I would argue the galactic level too. But the global level being, for example, my playground, that's not going to work for everybody. And so considering what level of community are you looking at, and how will you enrich that level of community through the exchange process that you're building from your own needs and the needs of those who want to buy or somehow exchange energy, money, product, whatever with you. So I love that. It's very different than the way we've been taught about business. It adds the community as such an important factor, and also changes a little bit of our mindset about what we need as individuals to play that role. I think that's really an excellent mindset to keep moving forward with, and it's going to be the mindset that will empower the rest of our communities to be healed in the paradise that we're all working towards, with our own motivation and our own needs in mind too. It includes everybody. No one's left out. And the benefit to the community is measurable. It's measurable. It's so beautiful. Thank you, Susan.
Well, I see a comment from Flower that said that she loves the need part, but has always tried to fit it in, but it's never worked for her. Mm-hmm. In this new world, we would take what hasn't worked. What were the expectations? Was there a policy or a law that simply needed to be changed? Was there a transportation system that simply needed to be filled? Was there a skill set, a training problem that, people, whatever made the solution not work, it probably involves somebody who previously said, this is the way it works. Now and you have to follow my rules or not at all. That no longer exists now. We have the permission to say to governments, to say to neighborhoods, to say to school systems, I want credit for this turnaround team project that I'm on. The kids said, we're working at home, we might as well do something. I demand that you give me academic credit. So the authorities that said, no, you have to attend these classes for these number of hours, they've had to be more flexible. And they are looking for solutions. They want the entrepreneur to help them figure out how to be part of it and change. At the end of the day, everybody wants to change whatever that identified problem is, the homelessness, the environment, the education system. We are totally aligned in the main part for what the problem that needs to be solved is. When somebody sets out to solve it and they go deeply, granularly into an analysis of what the stumbling blocks are, those are that's the point where you say, oh, thank you very much. Now I know I can talk to the mayor. I can go over to this business and see if we can do something together that before we used to think we were competitors.
Yeah, silver lining to a whole new world we're in.
Those obstacles are the teaching parameters that will open up the future.
Ah, that's so cool. I'm pulling up the other set of questions, and that kind of leads us into discernment too, because people could get really overwhelmed with all of the, everything from the bigger problems we're here to try to solve. Like, for example, my interest is empowering humanity, and that's a big giant issue. It's so big that really in my short lifetime, I can make an impact, but to solve a global lack of empowerment is impossible for a single person. And so that can be really overwhelming. It can also be overwhelming to think about what are your true gifts and what you really love and what do you know is your purpose in the world. That can be overwhelming too. It can be overwhelming to look at all the different people who may want to be part of what you want to offer and not narrow it down, not narrow it so much that then you're not going to meet the myriad of needs that these buyers that exist in the world that we all do.
That's a really critical point, Elizabeth. We may say, well, I know I want to do this. I want to be a musician and I only want to play classical music. Fine. But the world may not need classical music. The world may need music lessons, how to teach a scale. So you may have to change the core talent that you have and apply it in what you might consider less than ideal context. But the question to ask is, within that less than ideal context, am I getting fulfilled in my need to express myself through music or through healthcare or through being a teacher or giving or things like that? Entrepreneurs, in tech, the phrase we use is fail forward fast. And it's try this, oh, it failed. Try that, oh, that failed. Oh, try that, oh, it failed. And you do it over and over and over and over and over. And one of the things that when people in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, look at each other and say, well, I failed at this and I failed. There's a big smile and there's, oh yeah, I got that one too. I did that one. It's not this hiding your head in shame. My original idea didn't work and therefore I'm a failure. It's that I tried and was, it was testing. Now I've got the opportunity to do it a different way. And every time I failed, I learned something.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not the failing that is the failure. It's the
Right.
not trying
Yeah.
that's the failure.
Yes, amen to that. That's for sure.
But
And no doubt.
you've got to keep your mind open
Mhm.
about how long you're going to pursue it before you give it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I want to use myself as an example, having attempted to create a business around my core talents many, many times in many different ways. Failed a lot, and I learned immense amounts of stuff about those failures, and then was able to share them in people. That's actually when people wanted to come talk to me and listen to what I had to say, is because I was so clear about my failures and what I'd learned. And that's how I teach.
Right, right. So all that happened is that you got richer and deeper and more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And Flower points this out too. She said, "Thank you. I was really headstrong with the board of directors on a program I did in San Francisco, and they shut me down. And I was a board member. My small part got bigger than the main event, and even the group I worked with didn't want to take it to the next level. It's not easy to bring new stuff through." And I would also point out that at this time, part of what Susan's pointing out is that all the whole structure of, well, that's not going to work, that's too much, that's too big, is all, it's disappearing.
That's
People,
up for grabs.
it's up for grabs now. So,
Go look for a new group.
yeah,
If you still
exactly.
want to do it and they don't want to play, go look for a new group. If they
Yeah.
don't want to play, go look for a new group. At some point, you will either give up and say, what am I not learning from all these people saying no to me?
Yeah.
Or I'm too tired, I don't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to do it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we all have free choice. But I see, especially in tech, I work with founders, and they have, this is the ideal product, this is the ideal technology. Well, the market doesn't think so. The investors don't think so. The board of directors doesn't think so. The customers don't think so. They like some part of it, but they'd like it to come in red instead of blue. Well, I don't believe in blue. Fine. Go off and do blue by yourself. And that creates the situation where that particular dedication to a vision or a purpose creates a loss of community, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That's how innovation springs forward. Jobs was fired in magnificent fashion publicly from Apple, and then was brought back in. So whatever the circumstances are, own it that it's a lesson, a learning edge.
Yeah, learning edge. Yeah, I love that. That's good. And then that kind of leads me into discernment a little bit, because some people may ask, well, how do I know what my purpose is? Um, and then, of course, that's going to lead to, how do I know who the buyers are in the community, and how do I know
It's
what?
operations. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how do I know how to even get my to-do list done? All the way down to the very moments that we're experiencing every single day. Um, and I want to give a couple of tips about discernment. But first, what are from you, Susan? What is a mindset that people can use beyond the dream, right? Because the dream's so important. If you can dream what a beautiful, perfect paradise world looks like to you, that is going to give you a chance to say, well, without any obstacles, like Susan said, without any obstacles, how do I want to play in that paradise? How do I want to act? how do I want to take action in that paradise? How will I serve buyers and community at the same time in that paradise? But that first question of what is my purpose is the number one question people ask me for years now. Any thoughts on how someone could determine that beyond what
I
you've...
think I always start with vision and values and purpose. But that's not what the company does. The company provides a service or a product, and they have to be aligned with purpose and values and vision. But the purpose is not the business. The purpose is a touchstone for the business. As I do this, am I also fulfilling something that is deeply meaningful to me? So the question of what is my purpose, that's a philosophical question. That's not a business question. And should I take this job or that job? That's a different question. That's how I make money or how I spend my time. There are people in all walks of life who are fulfilling their purpose without their way of earning a living being obviously connected to that purpose. I'm thinking right now of a person I know in the public school systems in Berkeley who had a fairly modest role, but he always sang. He always was singing and teaching kids harmony and stepping into music rehearsals after school and things like that. His job was completely different from any of that, but his joy and love of music inspired other people to get into musical activities. He was not making his living through music, but he was fulfilling his purpose as a musician by sharing his love of music with children.
Ah, very good. So we're not talking about monetizing our purpose at all.
No, not at all. They're different things.
No.
Different things.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. And so sometimes that's how it can look, but that shouldn't be the main goal. We can still fulfill our purpose in a lot of other ways while having a functioning business that will
Absolutely.
bring us
Absolutely.
joy. Mm-hmm.
One of my most spiritual clients today sells insurance, PEO insurance.
Yeah.
She's very enlightened, and she's a dynamite worker in her community and very fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
They laugh. She just hired her first guy. I finally said, "You've got to have some diversity in this company." It was an all-women company, and they've just got their new guy, and they're teasing him mercilessly. But the joy that she brings to him, training him in a new community, a new skill set, new industry, is enabling her to reach out to a part of the community, the Hispanic community. She didn't speak Spanish, he does. So her day-to-day business of getting commissions off of insurance sales is so completely aligned with her mission and purpose, but it sure ain't her business. Insurance sales is her business.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very interesting way to view this, and also very different than most of us have been taught about business. And so very precious information.
Well, I think oftentimes, I was mentioning vanity businesses. We have to really decide: is our business there to enhance what we think of ourselves? Is it filling a gap of self-esteem, or power or recognition? Or is the business there to be of service to its customers, to its community, to its neighbors, to its partners?
Mm-hmm.
And the business that is of service, frankly, whatever you think of Walmart, they're certainly an imperfect company, but they are in service to their customers. We are the low-cost leader. Take it or leave it. Now, a lot of things come out of having that clear promise to their buyer, low-cost leader. But have they fulfilled on it? Yeah. Are they a leader in global transportation systems that are ecologically and sustainably advanced? Absolutely. Do they do a lot of things wrong? No question about it. But they have found a way that their purpose of putting very large selections of high quality goods in locations that didn't have them before, the most rural, remote, unserved places in the country. All of a sudden, big Walmart trucks are driving in and dumping off stuff and pulling away. Same with McDonald's. You can fight them all day long about how their food isn't healthy enough. It's always clean. They've always got a bathroom. It's always well lit. It's always going to be a safe place. It's going to be a cheerful place. And if you want to buy a salad, you've got that option.
Yeah, because people have demanded it.
I don't want to praise or demean any particular brand. All I'm saying is that the companies that thrive and grow really do have a very clear purpose, but they make their money by putting that purpose in the service of their target customers.
And that could be, you could look at that and say, look at my business, and it'd be the same. That I have a mission, and every single day, my purpose and my mission, I use that as my motivator and my everything in the business, which is separate from my purpose. That purpose is going to get infused into all the interactions I have with the people who purchase whatever I'm doing, and also the service to the community. For example, today's class is a good example. Empowerment. I kept hearing people say, my business is changing, or I want to change my business, or I need to do something different. And I said, well, I'm here to empower and serve those needs of the clients that I hear every single day. And I want to empower and uplift the human beings that I interact with. What will help me feel fulfilled that I can do that with this big, huge question that's coming up over the past few months? So I said, who do I know? Who do I know in my community? I know Susan Mills. She's a business strategist. She knows about transition. And then how am I going to serve the community? We have scholarships. Many of the folks they needed support. So we gave this class to them for free or discount, and made it so that I can also serve the greater community in this transition process. And that will help and move through what they've done, and they're going to be able to give out more support because we're supporting them. It fulfills my inner deep purpose of what I need to know that my community is being served, and that this problem of a transition in business is going to be some solutions can be made available. And then that business, seer and scientist, it does that. It can do that. And we're doing it right now today. But the part of how am I helping the greater community? By making sure that this is accessible, that this information is accessible. that's never been a question in my mind. But you've made it very clear to me that that is the step-by-step process that we must consider. And I happened to do it naturally, but that's actually a methodology here of considering that all the time. I think it's brilliant. So I want to give people some tips on discernment.
I see that we have somebody that wants to ask a question too.
Oh yes, we will be opening for questions, Nikki, and in just a few minutes. So I wanted to just give some people ideas on discernment a little bit, because a lot of this is going to turn into the to-do lists. So let me show you some things. For example, I was showing Susan, you know, I have spreadsheets and to-do lists all over my room. You know, this is just 2 of like 10. And how do you go from what we're talking about, which is very big, broad mindset shifts, to discerning, well, what are the little baby steps I'm going to do and not get overwhelmed? So I mentioned the overwhelm earlier. It's one of the number one things that shuts people down. They feel like a deer in headlights. They can't move forward. They can barely think about their own purpose. They're struggling. They're in survival mode. They're stressed out, so they can't think clearly. All of these things are happening. So what I like to help people do, and this is something you can do on your own anytime, any minute, any moment in time. You can be in the middle of a board meeting. You can be in the middle of a class like this, whatever. Notice where your head's at. You can't make any moves or any decision if your mind is completely overwhelmed and scattered. And my community knows meditation is part of this. To be able to have a calm, unstressed mind will give you the creative oomph you need. Making sure you're meditating every day if you can, even 5 minutes can be a big help right before you start making big decisions. You need to get your mind space in a place that can help you function. If you're too tired, if you're not feeling well, if you are too stressed out, you're not going to be able to move your purpose through any of the things we've talked about at all. So notice where your mind is. See what you can do to tweak it. Do you need to eat some food or drink some water? By golly, I will go most of the day and have not eaten and not drink any water. And by the end of the day, I'm so burned out, I can't even lift a finger to help my family. So that's every single hour, I'm asking myself, where's my mind at? What do I need right now? You can't move into these other layers of reality without taking care of your body and noticing where your head's at. So noticing that, and then how do you feel? How does your heart feel about what you have in front of you to do? It's a kaleidoscope of wonderful choices you can make, not a to-do list. It's a kaleidoscope of choices, and each one of them will require a certain mindset, a certain feeling of joy or not, and of course, action, which comes from the gut. Action in harmony with how your mind is feeling, how your body and your heart and your emotions are feeling. So don't see your to-do list as these things that are pounding down on you for attention. See them as a kaleidoscope of beautiful choices that you can make to use your time in that moment. So here's my to-do list. And I run multiple businesses, and I have to consider them every day. But at this point, I have removed myself from stressing out about every single one of those things pressing down on me anymore. And this has all been fairly recent, actually. So it's a fresh look at how to function. And so the reason why this came up is my husband, I heard him yelling in the other room because he was trying to jam a task that really was going to take an entire week in an afternoon. And so he's like yelling at the computer and stuff. And I go in there, I'm like, are you okay? He's like, no, this is taking forever. And I'm like, but what you're trying to do is going to take you a week. And it has. He didn't even finish it yet. It's taken a whole week. So I said, let's take a walk. And so we're walking and then I'm behind him. And I said, you know what? And this kind of comes in with the purpose piece too. If it's not bringing you joy, then what's the point? What is the point? And he's like, yeah, you're right. That's true. And
Elizabeth,
yeah, go ahead.
be careful on that one. There are things that don't bring you joy that are still fulfilling, such as doing your taxes.
Exactly. I was going to add that too. Yeah.
This idea that I should be happy at all times is not the mindset of a successful business owner.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But his greater...
A lot of tedious work.
It is. It's tons of tedious work, and taxes and money and spreadsheets and math are part of it, and that's for sure. And yet,
but it doesn't have to be torturous. I mean, you don't have to have
it torturous. Yeah. The broader thing, like seer and scientist as a business, or Drew's work, bioluminescent as a business, it is joyful in the end, in that it's going to help us run our purpose through all of the myriad of activities that the business provides. And then we feel enriched by it, even after doing taxes and those sorts of things. So I said to him, first, you can't keep, he tends to run his business as what he wants it to look like in the future all the time. I said, you can't function in the future. What is going on in the moment? Are you actually enjoying making this project or not? And he said, yeah. And I said, this is tedious stuff though. It's all these little bitty tasks in order to create a single product. And then he might put that product out there and no one might want it. And you know, what will happen? Will he give up? Will he stop what he's doing and just end it all in frustration? And so in the end, even finding joy out of the things that fail, finding the silver lining, finding the opportunity is going to cultivate more joy in your life in the end. There's no greater feeling, better feeling to get all of your accounting in order and get all your taxes done, right? There's a fresh feeling of, oh, okay, that was tough, but I did it and I'm done, and all right, good. And there's joy there. So just noticing, you know, here's a kaleidoscope of things. I'm not finished with my taxes yet. We had a little extra break here in the United States, and I took it because I needed to. But the taxes are still there, and can I use that as one of my choices today, for example? Oh, this still definitely is on the top of the to-do list. And as I run it through the kaleidoscope of, is my mind in a place where I can do these taxes and not lose my mind and think and get stressed out? Okay, yes, maybe that's true. How does it feel to visualize finishing my taxes? Oh, that feels really good. Do I have a physical capability in the moment? Maybe my children are climbing all over top of me needing dinner. That would mean that I can't finish my taxes in that moment, and that's okay. And then, you know, and finding each moment, okay, where am I at now? Am I going to be able to do them now? Okay, yes. Do I need help? Yes, I need help. So I'll ask my husband, is he in the mindset and the heart space and the physical space to help me to finish them? Or whatever. So we take a difficult task that no one truly, unless you're a tax person or an accountant and that's your passion, not everybody likes doing that task. But still, you can discern, you can run it through where your mind's at, what shifts you might need to make if you really have to do it. Maybe you've got a deadline. You can make the shifts. You can eat a snack and get your space right and imagine how good it'll feel when you're done with your task, and just keep doing that. You can't function, you can't act in the future or the past. It's only going to be in the moment. But instead of seeing my to-do lists as pressurized tasks, I have turned them into a kaleidoscope of choices. And those kaleidoscope of choices, if I ignore my taxes for too long, the rest of the choices aren't going to work, because then I'm going to be under a deadline and it's going to be stressful. So considering that, making those choices, all right, well, here's the top 10 that are the most important, but really, you can't get it done unless your mind, your heart, and your gut are on the same page and feeling really good about finishing that task. So I just want to give that mindset shift a little bit, because we tend to have, especially as Americans, or at least people from the Western world, so those of you who are in South Africa and Britain and all over the world, Australia, we tend to have a Western mindset of achievement and success and perfection constantly driving us. Workaholism is what we call it. And that will be such a purpose destroyer. It's such a destroyer of relationships, such a destroyer of momentum. And we can't keep beating ourselves up over the failures. And that's probably one of the most key points Susan's trying to help us see. That failure is full of lessons, right? And you all have heard me say this, that through suffering, that through difficulty, we advance more than when it's easy. And so taking that taxes example, I'm going to advance more this year by finishing that task
Suffering.
and going through the suffering of the taxes, because this year's different than other years. I'm doing taxes for 3 or 4 different things all at once, not just one thing anymore. So that to me is what has helped me relieve this big weight. It's like a lead cape of stress out of my life, is to see, oh, I have so many wonderful choices to make right now. Let's say you don't have any money to get your business going. What's in front of you? What are the choices right in front of you that you can play with? How will they help you to make a good next step, even if it's hard, even if it's difficult, even if it's annoying? How will that help you then to cultivate the future and the paradise you're moving towards? And acting in that moment is going to be key. Good. So anything you'd like to add to that, Susan, before we start taking questions from our souls here?
No, I applaud your courage for taking on these business tasks and having such a, in a sense, mundane topic in a otherwise philosophical and spiritual world. I think that there are 2 parts to business. One is the designing, conceptualizing, feeling out what it should be and what we'd like it to be. And the other part is operationalizing it. You know, what are the tasks? How does it make money? Who does what? Things like that. Those are 2 sides of the coin. And I think that most entrepreneurs start with their vision and they move it down into a pretty granular business plan that really says, okay, well, today this is what I need to do this task. Tomorrow that's what I need to do that task. And then seeing, you know, if those 2 directions are moving apart or moving together.
Yeah.
So there's in this conversation, we were talking only about visions and dreams. We were staying pretty high level. I wanted to make sure that people with operational questions knew that wasn't where we were going to go today. We could do that at a different time, but
yeah, we will, for sure.
Yeah.
And the discernment process applies to all levels of it.
Absolutely.
So even in the design part, how does it make my mind? Does my mind come up with pros, cons, solutions, and problems? Really valuing what the brain mind can offer in that, around your purpose, your vision, and then turning it into relationships with buyers and serving the community, then how does your heart feel? Does your heart light up when you envision this greater vision for what you're doing and your purpose and your mission, or not? Does the brain mind come in and try to take over with all its problems and solutions? Can you feel the energy of it, and allow your heart to have its own position, and bow to the brain mind, by the way, because the brain mind's got lots to offer, but it's not the only one who's going to run the show. You need to be able to physically feel the momentum and the joy and the passion for your purpose and your vision and your dream. And then the gut's going to tell you this is going to work in harmony with your buyers and your community and the earth, or not. If the gut shuts down and your heart's like, well, that's exciting and fun, and the brain mind's coming up with problems and solutions and pros and cons, but the gut says, this isn't right, something's missing, then you got to go back up a little bit and keep asking yourself, is this in harmony with the buyers in the community that I want to serve and help and support? Is it in harmony with my own needs? Sometimes it's not. And you need to get realistic about that too. Because, hey, guess what? Workaholic number one over here. You should have seen the way I used to run my schedule. It would have made people terrified. I ran my schedule by the minute. And that almost killed me. I was so stressed out that I couldn't fulfill my dream. I couldn't be in purpose. I couldn't even think at all. So I still have a schedule, but I have choices every moment. If one day I wake up and say, I don't feel good, I can't do sessions today, I have to take care of me right now. That's going to fulfill my purpose. That's really important. And the buyers, they're going to understand too, if they're the right buyers, if they're part of the right community that you want to serve. And if not, then you're going to find a new community. You're going to keep doing that. But I have choices. I get to choose every day if that schedule is going to work. I check in, brain, heart, gut. Is this going to work today? And keep going with that. Stay in the moment. It'll help you to bring your dream and your vision and your passion and your purpose into a grounded reality. And again, Susan and I are going to give you more of these talks. We're going to get deeper into these other levels of grounded reality as well. So this is not the end of it. This is only the beginning. Let's open up for some questions. And if you would like to speak live, which is totally fine, there is a raising your hand option. And so you can raise your hand, I believe, if you go to participants at the very bottom of your Zoom, and you can raise your hand. And if you go and you find yourself in the list, there should be an option to raise your hand. If you can't see that option, feel free to type in the chat. And some of you are on the phone, and so I might try to help you, and because some of you are on the phone, but most people are not. So I'm going to allow Nikki. Nikki has a question. I'm opening up for Nikki. Hi, Nikki. Can you hear me? You're going to have to unmute yourself. There we go. All right. Very good. Can you hear us okay, Nikki?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. What questions are coming to mind, Nikki?
Well, there's a whole bunch of them, so I'm going to try to find what's most relevant. Hi, Susan. Susan.
Hi, Nikki. Nice to meet you.
Was kind enough. Well, you've actually met me, Susan. You were kind enough to give me quite a bit of your time.
Yes.
Like maybe
yes.
I don't know how long, maybe June or something.
Yes,
or
I remember now. I apologize, it wasn't immediately recognized.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm over here on the West Coast.
Yes, I know.
if you've never would remember, because you probably speak
No,
to
I was
lots.
I was driving up the coast just after we'd talked, and I thought about you as I was coming through the slow area, SLO.
So there's a lot of things that have come up, but I wanted to try to focus maybe on one or two. All these cliches kept coming up while you were talking, Elizabeth, in particular, about not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and all these funny things that come from my family, who used to use a lot of. The older I get, the more they pop up into my memory. But so I'm theoretically in retirement, but have started a whole new life, if you will, that has really very little to do with where I was working. And when you were breaking down the difference between business and hobby, I wondered if you would elaborate on that a little bit more, and how one makes that distinction, for one thing.
Should I just start with that?
Yes, go for
Yeah,
it.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Oh, okay. A business, in a sense, stands apart from its founders. This is almost the first conversation I have when I come into a new team. I'll say, "Yep, you on paper you own this thing, but let me tell you, the reality is that you're its steward. It has its own life, its own purpose, its own dreams, and at some point, if it's going to be truly a healthy business, it's going to leave you behind. Your job is for you to continuously add value to this thing, to this entity, to this being called a business. And at the point where you're not adding value to it, then you've got to change your roles and responsibilities. And that's a little shocking to a lot of people. And I'll go back to the illustration of my friends with the hair salon in Oakland. And I had, they said, we're going to build this business and we're going to own it and we're going to do this, that, and the other. And I said, fine. And how many people are going to make decisions? And they said, well, it's us. We're the two owners. And I said, nope, wrong answer. There's three of you. There's each of you, and each of you has a vote. Those are two votes, and the business has a vote. And the business maybe even has two votes. In other words, the business is really what you're in service to, and the business is the criteria for which you make your own decisions. Is this business better off with this decision? Or am I making it because I'm better off by this decision? And that was shocking. And yet, that was a practice when they would sit down with me. We would have four chairs at a square table, two for the founders, one for me, and one for the business. And you could see just in conversation people looking over at the so-called empty chair. And they'd say, and I'll bring that back home. Yesterday, as we decided to shut the business down, they were very successful by any metric, by financial, by social, by any metric you want. They were very successful, but they were not going to make it through this pandemic. The owners clearly had a personal point of view. I mean, they're on the hook for the debt, the SBA loans and things like that. They talked about the clients and whether or not they could provide enough safety and comfort for their clients to be worked on hands-on in a close environment like a hair salon. And then we looked at the business. What does the business want this? And the business spoke loud and clear. It says, I don't do this anymore. We don't do hands-on, up close and personal stroking of people. We've got to be more respectful of the variety and diversity of people's needs, particularly through through health. The business was saying, I don't want to operate this way anymore. I don't want to operate as a standalone salon where people walk in the door and sit down on the chair and so we were able to convince ourselves as a say a decision team of 4, including the business, that not only did the 2 personal founders feel it was right for them personally, we felt it was also right for the business, that the business itself would be incurring debts and stresses and obligations it couldn't live up to as a result of this. And I, as a somewhat objective third party strategist, could see nothing but opportunity to turn that space into something different, opportunity to relieve the owners of some of the Herculean issues they were going to face. And that's the difference between a business and a hobby. A hobby comes and goes according to the interests of the person that runs it. Oh, I'm tired, I think I'll close the business. That's not what my friends Mireya and Casey did about Manifesta. They said the business is no longer capable of fulfilling its promise to its customers. And by the way, we're tired too.
Right.
But that's not why they quit. They quit because the business needed to be reinvented. So I'm not sure if that's a sufficient answer, Nikki, but it's what I have.
Well, the hobby part, I've heard this many times before, is that people think, I've heard people say to people, that's not a business, that's a hobby.
Right.
You might be able to turn that into a business, but it's not a business, it's a hobby. And the reason that I'm asking this question, I think, I'm not positive, but I think what it leads to is my passions are so diverse that I have a problem linking them. And then sometimes what I end up saying to myself is, you know, I'm not a detail person, I'm a visionary person, and that's always been my problem. And one might see that not as a problem, but farsightedness can be a real pain in the ass, because pragmatically putting it on the ground, boots on the ground, can be a challenge.
Operations are the heart of a business. If you don't operate in accordance with your promises, then you're out of business.
Well, it's not so much the promises as it is follow through. Is that the same thing?
Well, yeah, I offer this dress in this size and this color. Well, somebody's got to make it, somebody's got to ship it, somebody's got to price it, somebody's got to return it when it doesn't fit.
It's funny you use that example, because I had a children's clothing business.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. I didn't remember that.
1996, that was a complete and utter what we would call failure, right? And yeah, certainly learned from that I couldn't do all of it. I was doing all of it. Anyway, yeah, putting together, Elizabeth's talking about having multiple businesses. And I'm trying to, I think what I might be trying to do through my vision that I've had for decades, if you will, with some tweaking, is to put things that don't belong together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's where innovation happens. Nobody would have ever, and me, I am first in line to have laughed at this idea. In my early world of tech, nobody would have ever conceived of a phone and a camera working together. I thought it was a cynical ploy by the carriers to increase network usage. Well, I was wrong.
Okay, well, great example. I appreciate it. That sort of is the icing on the cake. I see what you mean, is that, yeah, because in my dreams, in my better moments, I see them all as connected beautifully. But when I'm being, I guess, critical, self-critical, not in a bad way, or I mean analytical, maybe more pragmatic, I see them as being like, what the hell are you thinking? You know, kind of thing.
Well, I would advise, Nikki, I would advise that you take each one of the ideas individually and operationalize it. Just make a list of, to do this, it needs this, 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 and this. And do that for every, in a sense, line of business that you have. And then look and see what they have in common and then where they start to veer off. In the sense of my insurance client, she just decided earlier this week to add a new line of business called payroll funding. And that's very different from insurance, but it's the same client service. My client has a need for a service that I think I can manage well. So although the details of payroll management are very different than the details of insurance, the majority of her business infrastructure was the same.
Okay, I'll let somebody else answer. My questions are endless, so I'm going to sign off. But thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, Nikki.
I really think these questions you asked, Nikki, were very beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's see, and we have 5 questions on our Q&A board. So we have a question from some of them are have to do with our class here, but so Flower asks, I used to have an art gallery. I understand how to run a retail business, but I can't seem to understand how an online business works. My business I want to start focuses on poetry, but I want to go beyond books. Can you give some insights on how to visualize an online business in this case? So she's transitioning from something very physical to something not physical in the traditional sense. And I would like to add that in particular, Flower's interest is to help people quit smoking. And she has a very unique way of doing this that's unusual, that I've never heard of, using poetry, using art to help people quit smoking.
Well, what was coming up for me is, where is the social purpose? And you've just nailed it there. It's quitting smoking.
Yeah, so that'd be the community benefit.
If quitting smoking is the social benefit, and you want to have transactions between people who want to quit smoking and the products and services that you offer, and how you do it online, I mean, that's a different discussion. You can find somebody that can help you technically how to set it up online. But what I would do was I would drive into the direction of quitting smoking. I would go into the organizations who promote stop smoking. I would see if there are support groups or grants or techniques. That's a whole industry. The medical profession has made a fortune out of patches. I would look at vaping as a prevention medicine opportunity more than a recovery opportunity. I mean, I would find partners that you sell through, rather than you being directly trying to manage the end user community and the buyer community. I think there are already large groups of people who congregate around the effort to stop smoking.
That would be the community then that she's talking.
So I would find a different distribution channel for your products and services, for which your online services are supplemental, not primary.
Yeah, that's really smart. It's a smart way of saying, well, I want to reach these smokers directly, but that's really hard to do. And all these other people have already done it.
Or are doing it.
And so it's them that you're going to connect with, and you're going to have your For example, if it's an online presence, you've got to have your calling card, your website up. You've got to have that up.
What does she think of that answer?
Let's find out. So, Flower, if you wanted to speak, that would be all right. I just need to know if it's true. Oh, she likes it. She loves it. And she's pointing out too, a lot of programs are top-down government, and so, but that's okay. They've got connection to the people who need you, who'd like innovative ways to quit smoking. And so technically that would look like your presence online, certainly to help people see what you're doing, and then being able to connect to that different set of individuals and communities and other businesses and programs and places to help get that information out to them. So you're going to be building rapport and relationship, not with the people directly in this case, but the people who have already connected.
Another way to do that, if she did want to deal with the people directly and not go through an indirect channel like I suggested, there's not one answer. But for instance, you might do a program designed at kids, at teenagers. And then you'd go through the school system, and then you would have a variety of games and experiences that, or social social connections. You could build support groups among kids. There's all kinds of ways to use online technology and the tools that you feel that you're creatively innovating with the purpose of, people who smoke. But there's a difference between a target audience of a bunch of kids or middle-aged people or elderly people, or why they're smoking, or if you're 90 and you like to smoke, have it,
Sure.
Enjoy the rest of the time that you have and smoke as much as you want. Why take that pleasure away from somebody who's well entrenched?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and making it using some of these popular platforms too to help you, like Amazon. Alice is mentioning, and I agree, getting ebooks out on Amazon is fairly straightforward and easy, and you can even make them super cheap or free to build interest with a great grand market available. Everybody's on Amazon at this point, and or at least everyone knows of Amazon. So using that platform too, for example. So Sylvia, I'm going to open you up. And so now you are live, Sylvia. You'll have to unmute yourself. Hi, Sylvia, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Hi, Susan.
Coming to mind?
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. My question is, okay, so just to give you a little bit of quick background, I am a visionary creator. I can build, I can create, and I'm a healer and other stuff. But my question is, I have two different businesses, and I'm transitioning from my regular job, which is at the end of the month, I'll be done with accounting. I do accounting work for a credit union. So I have a business in healing, and I have a candle business with products, candles, and other stuff that I've been making. Now, my question is, I have a hard time kind of integrating them both together, because like they're not separate, but to me they're the same, but they're separate. Does that make sense? Because
Right, they motivated you come from the same motivation within you. What I would ask you is, what social problem are you solving?
well, with the candles, what I was solving at the beginning, and I still do that, is the clean burning of the candle. Like, commercial candles are really dirty per se. They're burned really bad, they're toxic, they're not as natural. That's my mission. And in talking to Elizabeth last year, I integrated the healing part in the candle. So I have two or three different things within the candles, 3 different products within the candles.
Well, I off the top of my head, I like the way that you framed it, of the candle being your primary product, that it's environmentally beneficial, and yet by burning it, it also has some energetic and spiritual properties and healing properties as well. One of the things that I might suggest for you is that can you find a way to manufacture these candles that turns into a business opportunity for people who absolutely need work right now? Can you do something with the gathering of the raw materials for the candles, or the assembly of the candles, or the manufacturing and shipping of the candles? Can you get 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people together who themselves will have at least some level of work and income through these candles, so that it's not just the benefits of the candle for the environment and for the healing properties, but it's also addressing a need for people in this coronavirus situation, that maybe they could make these candles at home. Maybe if you put a candle next to the bedside of somebody who is sick, it becomes a gift of love. There's all kinds of ways to market and position it, but if you can go to the need that is in the world today, which right now is new ways to make money, I think a candle making business could be a powerhouse. And the fact that this candle business is a non-traditional candle business with some healing properties and such, then you've differentiated yourself. But I would not, for you, think of yourselves as being in 2 different businesses. One business is a candle maker, and another is a healer.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you. It's just, I have so many ideas, but very hard to ground them. Like, they're bubbles of ideas that I have around my head.
Well, think about other people and who it serves, and the environment, and really, people today are very talented, very skilled, very smart, and they need jobs. If you can create jobs, you're doing something that is beneficial to everybody.
Yes, I applied for one of those grants because I wanted to expand that, just to become like my own, like the line, so I can have people helping me doing that. And that will give me more room for healings as well. So that's great. You're confirming that.
Yeah, but grants, there's not a lot of money for grants right now. I think you're going to have to.
It's the loan, excuse me, the loan.
Oh, a loan, for sure.
Yes, because that's what I thought, maybe that will help me out to the transition that I'm going through from regular income to.
Well, a candle making business can be a good business.
And I had made a lot, pretty good here in town. The hard part is the shipping, because it's expensive.
Where are you located?
In Tri-Cities, Washington State.
Yeah. Well, you've got lots of logistics there.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad that we could help you. All right. Anyone else want to chime in with any questions? And Alice, you wanted to know who was that speaking? That's Sylvia. Her business is called Madre Tierra Candles, and she is on Facebook and other places, and her products are great. I have a bunch of them. Very good.
And Elizabeth, that's one of the things that you could do, is through your Slack, through your different groups, put entrepreneurs together to do kind of like a business entrepreneur roundtable.
Absolutely. We could do tables on our Slack community, which we have to pay to be on our community on Slack, because it gives us searchability and other things, and the ability to have endless members. And I've been charging $13 a month, but I'm open to whatever you can afford. If you want to come join us on there, I also have a certain amount of scholarships to offer as well. To come join us on Slack. It's an alternative of sorts to Facebook. And on there, we have member offerings, a channel for member offerings. Let's get together. We'll do some roundtables with different people. We do circles within circles on that community platform. We have healing circles and circles where people check in, and circles where we can do this brainstorming. And so with Nikki and Sylvia and other people like that who are in this mindset of transition and shift and really being able to serve the community with their vision, their purpose, and of course, their partnership with their own business. And so Linda asks, I create abstract paintings as a meditation embedded with intentions. People love them. Any advice on how to include a community or community effort?
Well, if you want that to really have the impact that it sounds like it can have, solving a community purpose through that vehicle, almost like the candles, magnifies its power exponentially. I don't, what part of the world do you live in?
Linda, can you type in or raise your hand? I might just open you up here. There you are. All right. Linda is on. And all right.
Can you hear me?
Linda, we can hear you. Where are you in the world today, Linda?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, one of the issues that's in between Canada and the United States is trade. I would find some kind of partner on the U.S. side and open up a U.S.-Canada collaboration of some kind. I mean, I'm brainstorming now. I'm not giving advice. I'm thinking of different ways to attract this. If the artwork is simply something that you yourself must do, maybe I don't know how you replicate it. How can you put it into postcards or prints, or take an original piece of art and have it scale. The thing about a business, if it's going to thrive, it needs to scale. It needs to continually grow and improve and fulfill its promise, financially as well as product function wise. So your question is a bigger question. Without knowing more about how you do what you do, I don't know that I could have very specific practical advice, but absolutely I would find some sort of community partner who has a really tough problem that your product could help them solve.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and so Linda, also what comes to mind as well is showing or doing classes or tutorials to show people how to do this for themselves, because your work is creating portals of light, right? And that's how I read it. And by the way, Linda, I actually know many of my clients do that work too, and yet they don't know how to get their work out there, but to have a network of people who are part of a similar mindset, and then also teaching other people to do this so that they can feel empowered by those portals, right? And channel that creativity. That whole process can be incredibly healing and stress relieving, which we need right now, right? So that comes to mind too. That can help serve a greater community issue around stress and healing.
Yeah.
I would really pursue the teaching part of it. That's great advice, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. If you've got this beautiful talent, and for example, Nikki, one of the things she does is creates these beautiful pieces of, these are portals too. and I have been gifted some of these beautiful pieces of art, these portals, as a requirement to have this gift. I have told her that I will wear them on the videos that I teach on, so that light can be moving through. And people ask me, where'd you get that cool necklace? And I lead them to Nikki. There's relationships you can create like that. This piece of art behind me, it was created by a client of mine, and we traded for sessions. She gave me this piece of beautiful art, and I traded one-on-one sessions for this piece of art for a few months. And this piece of art is now my special background, but it has the energy that I want as my background to serve you. So literally right in front of you, you have two examples of how these people's energy and their work and their passion are being moved through platforms like this. And it was through a bartering relationship that was created. So hopefully that'll ping some cool ideas too. What if you had all these different speakers you might like, or other teachers, Linda, like me, and you said, I would love to give you this print if you would be willing to use it as a background to several videos of yours, and tag me in that. I've done bartering work with artists whose artwork I've used as the cover photos to many of my classes, and then I get to put underneath exactly what that photo is all about, what that beautiful piece of art is all about, and where they can go find out about that artist and buy prints from them if they like it. Those are another way that we can help each other and support each other without money exchange.
Mhm.
But I would really add to that, Elizabeth, find the community, not in the sense of collaborative people working together, but the real social issue. Is it, you know, is there a large scale, very thorny, very complex social issue that this can help address, as well as all the suggestions you said? Having that third party in the mix brings a paradigm shift into how that product is seen.
Absolutely. And like Flower Diamond's pointing out, post-traumatic stress disorder. There you go.
No, right. It's not the benefits of the product.
Yeah.
It's the social, is that the Veterans Administration. If you say PTSD, the social issue is, where is relief needed but not being delivered? Who are the institutions? What are the laws? What are the organizations? What are the, can you do something in the grocery store? Can you do something in the church? Can you do something in a place that normally you wouldn't have thought of?
Yeah.
Where their values align. You know, the word community means everything to everybody. What I'm talking about is a real profound shift in how society works.
Yeah.
That's the level at which you partner your product or your offer with.
Very good. Any last questions, Linda?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Very good. All right. So we do have Nikki raised her hand again, and I want to allow her to talk because she always does have very good questions. Nikki, you'll have to unmute yourself. There you are. What comes to
Hi.
mind, Nikki?
That's the first time I've seen you wear that one. That's so cool. Yeah, that's different.
I didn't want it to be seen.
Thank you. So I have two things that really came up, and I think one of them is probably too broad to even address in this class, but I'm going to go with the simpler one first, which is that Elizabeth pointed out something about my work. That's one aspect of what I'm doing. I absolutely love doing it. It feels like, to me, it is my healing work. At this point, it heals me, and it clearly empowers the people who have them. I have many, many testimonials, beautiful ones regarding that. But what I have done on my new website, which is, well, it's not that new anymore, but I'm trying to, you know, tweak it and edit it constantly, like every night now. During this time of being inside, I've been really focused on it. I find that this, let me see if I can ask the question. What I think I've done, and this I think is a pattern of mine that is, you know, not a good one. So this is probably has to do with some kind of trauma or emotional stuff, but I'm putting myself in a box that I believe will allow me to be in the world in a way that is not in integrity. It's not that I'm lying. It's that I'm keeping a good portion of what I believe. These necklaces are just a good example. What I believe that they are doing, and what I believe that I am accomplishing through creating them, is not how I'm marketing them. Does that make sense? So
there's nothing duplicitous about that.
well, for instance, Sylvia, who's on the call, we talked about doing a trade for candles, and she said, I don't wear jewelry. And my whole body went into apoplexy, because I don't even call them jewelry, if you know what I mean. So I, you know, to me, there's something very different, but they fall under that category, of course. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like, in a way, I'm kind of selling myself short by not talking about them in the way that I see them. Maybe not talk about them as portals, but talk about them as healing amulets, or, you know, talismans, or adornment, or whatever. That's how I see them. But I believe that I've constrained myself to a very traditional description on my website for fear of losing the bigger market. So I feel like, in a way, I'm kind of selling myself as something that I'm not. I don't know if that makes sense.
Is there a question?
Well, is there some lack of integrity that may be impacting what I'm doing?
From a business standpoint, you can believe anything you want to about your product. What happens in the public market is that what you say publicly about your product, it has to be verifiable as producing that. In other words, if you say it can work miracles for you, then be prepared to have a list of miracles that it has performed for other people. But if you can say you'll feel good wearing this, then have a list of people who feel good wearing it. It doesn't, anybody can say anything they want as long as they can back it up. And that's where integrity falls short, is when the public presentation of something is revealed to be quite different than the public perception of what that brand promise was.
Yeah,
but what you believe in your heart about what it is.
Yeah, you've flipped it upside down for me, so that's really cool, because in fact, what I'm doing is just fine. It doesn't mean that I mean, my testimonials, for instance, will speak to what an individual has experienced, as opposed to me saying these are magic pieces that will bring you miracles or whatever. I see what you're saying. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you've kind of turned it upside down for me. So I really appreciate that, because I feel like my instinct to keep it broad was probably correct.
Depends on who you want to reach.
Yeah, that's another topic. Who's my customer? Okay, I'll stop now. Thank you.
Beautiful, Nikki. Very interesting and powerful issue that I think many of us have faced. Certainly myself as well. And working to a lot of things about my work that I believe in personally, I don't necessarily share them publicly. There isn't any need to. But it really helps me continually ask myself then what my real relationship with this business is, because I am not my business.
That's
And
right. That's the point, Elizabeth.
yeah, very good. Sylvia has another question. Let's see what she's saying here. Go ahead, Sylvia, if you want to unmute yourself. There you are.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, you're talking about the business is like a separate, per se, entity of us. It's like an extension of us. Would that make sense?
Well, if it's a real business, it's going to be separate from you.
Okay.
If it's kind of more of the term we're using today is hobby, then it's going to be an extension of you.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I wanted to differentiate both terms in a way that, okay, because my business is a business, it's not a hobby. I started as a hobby, but it's not a hobby anymore.
Right.
So, so in a way that you were saying, and what Nikki was saying, that the integrity part, do we need to show everybody like the testimonials of people saying, okay, your product is amazing, or I love what you do? Or do we know already within our core that our product is good, no matter what others might perceive of it? Or how do you see that?
You have to be able to substantiate the brand promise that you make.
Okay.
In other words, if you say it's going to do this, then other people have to verify and say, yes, it does do that.
Okay. Yes.
Otherwise, there's going to be a gap, a lack, a doubt that comes up. Well, she said it would do this, and I never saw it. So I wonder if she's in, if it's the product fault or the manufacturer's fault or something is at fault for the difference between what I'm experiencing and what was promised.
Okay.
And the difference, let me just also add a point about a business. A business is built so that at some point it can be sold. It can walk away from you, or you can walk away from it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too, and sell the goodwill per se and the other stuff, like the products and the goodwill as well.
Whatever the definition of a business is that it will survive, given the right skill set around it. It will survive if you leave. The business is not dependent upon you. You can be replaced.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
That was huge for me too, Sylvia. Learning that, it was pretty weird.
Yeah. Yeah, we are very in a lot of things, workaholic and very intense with things. We're the same. We're Libras, so we are very intense. So thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. I think it's been so precious to view our businesses that way, Susan. It was one of the biggest mindset changes I had to have. And it's made a big difference for me, because now I can have a relationship with myself that is so different than before, where I was actually measuring my own well-being according to how my business was going, and that was madness. It was madness. It wouldn't work. And testimonies are incredibly invaluable. If, for example, who here hasn't been on Amazon and read all the reviews of something before you bought it? I always read the reviews. I look at the percentage of how much are there really bad reviews and how versus good reviews. And for a business like Seer and Scientist, and it depends on being able to show and substantiate that the things that people receive from that business fulfill the promises the business has. those promises are laid out very clearly on my website, and I'm constantly making sure that that's the case, and allowing the business to evolve more so that that substantiation is more obvious, making testimonies right there on the homepage easy to read, making it very clear bullet points of what can you get out of a one-on-one session? What are you going to learn from this class today? Exactly. And making sure that that happens and that the business is able to provide that. Because I'm not the business, it's up to me to cultivate this beautiful being that is seer and scientist and give it the things it needs to do what it says it's going to do. And that's so beautiful. It's a different relationship. It's very precious as a relationship. Flower says, I feel like the energetics of this call is informing my whole neighborhood, and that people are going to get inspired by us just meeting today. Like we're dipping the whole world into a soul ocean solution. Thank you. And that is the outcome of us meeting and talking. We're putting that out into the collective as possibility. And Susan's attitude, a big attitude shift, which is immense for all of us, to never see crisis and failure as a block or an end. It's always something to utilize. It's always something to learn from. It's always an opportunity. It's probably the biggest mindset shift we can have to start out with today. And then Nikki's saying, remembering that my business is an entity itself, it deserves a chair in the boardroom, looking at it as something that does not need me to survive. And that is exactly precisely exactly what we're talking about here. And I think it's really special. And by the way, Nikki's also pointing out lots of other businesses out there besides Amazon. And so we can always keep that in mind too. That
and Elizabeth, can I add, there is nothing wrong with going into commerce to create something that you love, that you don't want to scale, that you don't want to sell. There is nothing absolutely at all wrong about that. That's an expression of who you are and how you work with the world. The difference is that it's not a business. It's more of a personal expression.
And that's okay.
But it's not, but not everybody needs to have a business.
That's right. That's right. Not everybody needs to have a business. It's true. Beautiful. My friends, thank you so much. And Angela is saying, I'm just getting why I haven't been able to begin a business until now. I have needed this energetic shift. And that's exactly why I wanted to bring Susan to the table. And we're going to get together as long as we need to. We have a lot of other topics to look at. More about vision, more about value, more about money. And her lessons around these things are really precious, and us being able to get together and talk as a community about what this world looks like now for business, for entrepreneurs like you, and how to keep moving forward with these major mindset shifts that do turn into actual, real, measurable results in your life. And I'm so proud and happy to testify that's true. Thank you, Susan, so much. Any last thoughts, Susan, that you'd like to leave our special group here?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing me into your world. I think that business and commerce is a sacred practice. I've always believed in sacred commerce, philanthropic commerce. I think that business and the flow of money has a power to it that, when it's done with intentionality and integrity, really can change the world more quickly than we would imagine, than we could have imagined before bacterias, the virus. But thank you, Elizabeth. I'm happy to. to work with you and your community.
Absolutely. I'm very glad to have you as well. And thank you so much. We have a lot of different gratitude. Thank you for this awesome wisdom, this info. I love the collaborative nature of this call. Everyone's really grateful, and we're grateful for you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being interested in this for you, but also for the whole world, my friends. I know that's your nature, as it is mine and Susan's nature, and now we can really nail it down into our mindset shift from here on out. So look for emails where we're going to invite you to more talks like this, and we're here for you. We want to keep supporting you, and we're going to be offering more than just talks. We're going to try to get you into collaborative groups and as much support as possible for our continued transition that we're all going through. And so bless all of you. Namaste. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Susan. I love you very much. And bless everyone. And a replay will be sent to you as soon as possible. And thank you all so much. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye, everyone.